What up? It's me, your boy, David Glasgow here from Vanguard Sports, man. Welcome everybody to this video series. I don't even know what I'm gonna call it. I see my Dragon Ball Z mug. Pretty cool. Easily distracted, as you can see. But let's think of a name right now. Let's call it the Need to Know. We seriously just freestyled that. We made it up right now. So, episode 1 of the Need to Know, man. Welcome for everybody who's aware of Vanguard and what we do here in collegiate sports as it relates to athletes. Not just collegiate sports, but also, shout out to our boy Moise Zakursky, Mexico City, Mexico, F4 racing, Formula sports, all type of sports in general, man. We help out. We're the consultant tip. So what I wanted to discuss with you guys today is, I know I'm late. I've been trying to get my computer to work this. I still have not gotten my computer to work. So we are using my iPhone. Shout out to Apple. Matter of fact, let me stop. I don't want to give them free advertisement. But shout out to the phones that are capable. And we are going to discuss today, I'm a couple weeks late, but I do think it's never too late to have a good conversation. I wanted to discuss Mr. Nico Iamaleava. That's the last time I'm going to say his name throughout this whole broadcast. We're just going to say Nico. And his situation and what I think this is going to mean for collegiate sports. So for the uninitiated, Nico left the University of Tennessee. He basically was holding out during spring ball, and allegedly, I have to use these words correctly. Thank you, law school. Allegedly, Nico was holding out for the purpose of gaining more money. He was on a $2 million a year contract between him and Tennessee and Spire Sports, the collective, and everybody. And that contract is no more. The coach announced after a few holdouts, Nico missing practice, missing team meetings, that he was released from the team. And as a result, Nico then entered the transfer portal. And when entering the transfer portal, he eventually signed to UCLA for, I believe the number is $1.2 million, but California has state tax, so now Nico is going to be taking home around $800,000, give or take, yearly. So yeah, he lost a couple $1 million as a result of this move. His family did come out and say that the move wasn't for financial reasons. It instead was because of they weren't happy with the way he was being used in Tennessee's offense. What are my takeaways from this? How do I break down that situation? I don't believe that was for offense. I think that this was 1,000,000% a financial play. I do feel bad for Nico though, because, and I'll tell you why. At the end of the day, we still judge the young man, and he is a young man. I say that correctly, but he is also still a kid. And so I'm going to make a video on this later down the road too. I just think things like this are the result of bad advice, if I'm being quite honest. And I don't sit here and act like I'm perfect and like I always give the greatest advice in the world, but I do think that I pride myself on being knowledgeable about certain situations so I can be best equipped to give great advice, me and my company. But I just don't think Nico was given the best advice, if I'm being completely honest. And with that being said, I think that it led him to where he is now, losing out on some money, a bad reputation, which I would say is more important than the money. And there's a little arrogance that was at play here, I think, and a little overestimation, in my opinion, and just lack of organization all around. I just think it's a bad look for him and his camp, if I'm being honest. And now he has all this unwanted pressure going into him this season. I wish him the best at UCLA. I hope he has a great season at UCLA, but it's going to be tough, man. It's going to be tough. It's hard enough, me being a former Division I athlete myself, it's hard enough having to prepare and go out on the field and play and everything. Now you have this big dark cloud that's going to be looming over you when you play. So I hope he can block out the noise, man, and get tunnel vision and everything. But it's tough, man. I think whoever his team is, his agency representative, whoever it is who was in charge of this move, they should have told him, hey, man, if they should have told him the negative implications of doing this just as well as the positive ones. If you hold out and you make this strain between the locker room, because let's call it what it is. These are the things that people aren't thinking about a lot of times. The behind the scenes football stuff is now your teammates feel away, because the question is, are you putting money over the team? What we're here to do. Our goal is Tennessee made the playoffs last year. Our goal is to try to win a national championship here. So what's more important to you? Is it making money or is it playing? And I also want to be clear, I don't think any party is really, I might not agree with Nico and how they went about it. I don't necessarily, who am I, right? Or who are we to criticize somebody for wanting more money? I think all of us have had a job at a point in time, I will hope. And we all want, if there's an opportunity somewhere in our work field, we are going to, and if it's saying, hey, we're going to pay you more money to do the same job, a lot of us are leaving. Now, it's more complex than that. There's more factors that go into it. And there's a proper way to leave, which I don't think they handled that properly. But I don't think this is about right or wrong. Like I said, the execution is questionable. But I don't blame him for wanting more. I'm a little upset about the way they went about it. I'll say that. But I damn sure don't blame Tennessee for saying, no, we can't have you do this. We can't have you doing a holdout in the middle of spring ball when we're a team that just made the playoffs last year and we're competing for a national championship. So no, I don't blame either side. I think both sides did what was right for them at the end of the day. But I do wish that Nico would have handled this a little better. Now, the question that I have for you guys and for NCAA, for everybody, I would like to discuss how I think going forward, this is going to affect collegiate sports. And in summary, I'll break it down, but in summary, I think that college football is slowly but surely turning into the NFL. And I think eventually all collegiate sports is just about to be a professional landscape. When I went to these schools like Texas A&M, TCU, and they give us the NIL presentation and everything and how they break everything down, they're trying their hardest to mimic an NFL system when it comes to establishing fair market value for the players and NIL and a couple other things. They're trying their hardest, but the thing that I don't get why the NCAA doesn't do, the NCAA doesn't want to lose the amateur title. And an amateur is basically, I'm paraphrasing, but it's somebody who is playing the sport for the love of it. You're not playing for the reason of financial gain or any other reason. You're literally playing out of love. And we just have to be honest, that's just not true anymore. It's not. It's an outdated title and they need to change it. So I think going forward, we have many lawsuits coming down the pipe. Many. We're reaching the House versus NCAA. That's the big one right now, which is dealing with revenue sharing and dealing with the amount of athletes a team can have. Also, the big thing from that is the salary cap from the House versus NCAA settlement. And what that's basically saying is that each school is going to be allotted $20.5 million a year. Every Power 5 school and the other schools that choose to opt into that settlement. And now the schools, they used to have to go through third parties to allocate the funds to the athletes. Now the schools themselves are allowed to give it give the money to the athletes themselves. They're allowed to get the sponsorship deals for the athletes themselves. So with a cap of 20.5 million, and it's supposed to go up annually 4% every year. Excuse me. Where does this leave a lot of people? I've seen a lot of people saying they think the collectives are done. They think that the collectives, and for clarity, collectives are the outside resource that universities use to raise the money to pay and compensate the athletes. I don't think so. And the reason I say I don't think so, I think the collectives now become more important. And I'll tell you why. If I'm the University of Nowheresville and I'm in a Power 5 conference, and my rival is a University of Somewheresville, if we are all operating under the same cap, right? We all have 20.5 million. We figure out how we disperse it to the players. If I'm Nowheresville and I need to get an advantage on Somewheresville or any other university in my conference or nation at that point, I am using my outside resources to try to, I don't want to say fund, I want to make sure I word this correctly, to fund the athletic program. Because, gotta mind you now, this cap money, the salary cap, money it only counts towards the cap if the university has involvement. So, outside involvement given to the university is not going to be considered cap money. Now, they do have to, there is also a new rule in this House versus settlement which says that they do have to, any deal, NIL deal of $600 or more has to be reported to Clearinghouse LLC, I believe is the company. And now, with that being reported, that's how they manage and make sure that schools are staying within their cap. But, like I said, the collectives, you can't be called a collective anymore. And we're going to have to tweak exactly what it is you do. And you can't even have really a direct relationship with the school. But if there's one thing that David knows when it comes to legal spaces is that there's always a legal loophole. So the question is, does this settlement really solve anything? And the answer is no. No, it does not. Look, man, college sports and players getting paid has been a battle. It's like Highlander. It's been a battle since the beginning of the time, and it's still going on. I don't think this settlement necessarily stops it. It just adjusts it. So now, this is where I predict the next lawsuit is going to come. What happens when a school uses outside funds that they weren't directly involved with, that don't count towards the cap, and now it exceeds this cap that the school is given because you have to report $600 or more has to be reported now. One or two things are going to happen. Somebody's about to get popped for foul play, which is going to be very likely because somebody's just not going to report everything. And then, or it's going to happen, they're going to say, hey, you can't do this. And then there's another lawsuit. So look, man, this lawsuit stuff is not going away, guys, no time soon. I know everybody's saying NIL is ruining college sports, and in a way, I agree, it is. But also in a way, who are we to tell a kid who comes from poverty or comes from a different background or financial situation that they're wrong for going and getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to play the sport they love? Like, who are we to say that? I don't believe in that. I wish that was a resource I had when I was playing. Unfortunately, I didn't, which is one of the reasons why I got into the field that I am in now, to help these kids with the advice of which way to best maneuver this space, because it's crazy. It's crazy. We don't have any precedent for this, guys. So I think this problem is just really starting. Like, we're seeing people are trying their hardest to come somewhere in agreement, but it's just not enough protections on both sides. I think right now is Wild Wild West. The athletes are able to do whatever they want, and the schools are really getting ate in the butt for it because there's really just not enough protections. So I think more lawsuits definitely are going to be a part of it. I think we have basically, again, I'm going to use terms kind of like the NFL would use or professional sports, because that's where I see this going. I don't see no other way around it. The NCAA is going to try as hard as to hold on to that amateur title. This hasn't been amateur athletics for the longest. We just have to be real. And so with the transfer portal, right, these athletes basically have free agency. You have free agency opportunity. That's pretty much what it is. This is a free agency period. You got some time right after the season, and you got some time in the spring. So there's 2 free agency portals right now. Why do we think a lot of schools have been canceling their spring games? Like it has even gotten to that point because they're afraid that an athlete they're going to play or not play, somebody who's just on the staff, might go somewhere in the conference, go to a rival, go to a school they're going to play, and they might know the system, which I have my own thoughts on that. I don't agree with this canceling the spring game stuff. We can get into that another time. But there's basically 2 free agency periods. These schools just aren't really protected, man. I know there's days, the last period just closed up here this last week. And there's days that I know a lot of schools are just sighing in relief or disappointed because they didn't get somebody. But they're just, it's scary. It's scary. And to be honest with you, it's more scary with a school like my alma mater, UTSA or Texas State, or FCS school like a North Dakota State and Incarnate. It's more scary with a program like that because you have a bigger chance of losing your talent than you do gaining. Kind of. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not as scary with a Tennessee, SEC, A&M, because you can kind of, you have that, you're in a Power 5 conference to where you can rotate that door and more athletes can come through. A smaller school it's kind of scary, man, because you took the chance on this kid, you built them up, and now that they're good, they have the opportunity to just say, hey, coach, I appreciate everything, but this school's offering me $400,000. And to be honest with y'all, there's not a lot of people turning that down. I'm just telling you the truth. I'm not here to debate whether that's right or wrong. I don't think it's wrong, but there's not a lot of people turning that down. So going back to protections, I think 2 things are about to happen. Usually they don't have letters of intent anymore, but back when I was playing, back in 2010-ish, you had a letter of intent, which was good for 1 year. Basically, this is your contract to be at this school. You could be at this school for this 1 year, and then every year the coaches either renew this or they don't. And when they don't, you're not on the team anymore. Now, is that happening now? Back then, it not being renewed wasn't a problem. So long as you went to practice, it wasn't really based on your talent. You went to practice, you went to school, you did what you were supposed to do. You were going to get 9 times out of 10, you're getting your letter of intent renewed. Now, with the NIL and the roster space and everything going on, there's a lot of cuts. They're not renewing these no more. They're telling these kids, hey man, you might want to either transfer, go to the NFL, or stop playing sports because we got to get this guy. And you just don't make the cut as far as talent goes on our team. So you're basically taking up roster space. That's pretty much what's going on now. It's turning more, the business is starting to affect the field a little more. And now it's getting more, I don't want to say cutthroat. It's just getting more, it's a job. It's the same thing at your job. If you go to work and you just dare lollygagging, eventually they're going to replace you. And then when they replace you, they're looking for somebody better than you. So it's the same principles that is happening now. So what I think the NCAA or schools are going to start doing, maybe not necessarily the letter of intent. Again, I don't know how. I might make a separate video on how, the minutia of these things, and I might post that on Patreon. We'll figure it out. Schools are going to start making, instead of these letters of intent being good for 1 year and then renewing, they're going to start being 2 or 3 year deals. It's going to start being 2 or 3 year contracts. So basically, a situation like a Nico situation cannot happen here because you're locked in for this many years. And if you decide not to be locked in for that many years based off of what you signed, again, what you signed is why adequate representation is important. You're not going to get all of it because now you're going to have to get some of it back even in some situations. So yes, I think the letter of intent days are going to change, or the time that an athlete just being locked into a school for 1 year. I think those are going to come to an end. I think they're eventually going to be multiple year deals. Then I do think that also with the way that I see it, NCAA, I believe the head coach of Grambling talked about this, is I think if you're not in a Power 5 conference, or maybe even but more so if you're not in the Power 5 conference, P4 or whatever, I think that buyouts are going to start being a part of it. Because, okay, if UTSA has this kid who plays offensive line, and this offensive lineman is great, but Oregon, you weren't paying attention to him before. Oklahoma, you weren't paying attention to him before. University of Texas, you weren't paying attention to him before. How do we remedy the kid just leaving the school that invested all this time and the money? It might not be nothing compared to those other schools I just mentioned, but how do we remedy him just getting up and saying, "Thank you, coach, I'm out"? A buyout. I don't know what it looks like. Again, I can make another video getting into the details of it, how I think it'll be, but I think it's only right if you're going to take a player that I spent the time with, I've recruited, I've did all the work with, took the time and effort to invest in. It's only right that you pay me for my time. So I think buyouts are going to start being conducted for lower tier schools. I think that's also another way to deter some of all this movement being so frequent, because it's like, maybe we want to give this guy $200,000, but is he worth $400,000 to get him? These are the type of things, especially if we're dealing with a salary cap now. These are the type of things that I think will be considered going forward, that are for more protections for both sides, not just the athletes, but the schools as well. And I mentioned it a little bit before. I just think that this amateur status thing, I think the NCAA just needs to let it go. I think we need to just start operating in the parameters of professionals, because that's what it is. I mean, these guys are on TV. College football is a huge thing here in America by itself. And I just keep talking about football. I'm not even considering the other sports, but those are huge things as well. I think the amateur status just needs to be gone. And I think that's what it's headed towards. I think you look at situations like Ron Rivera becoming I think he's a GM, don't quote me, but he's working in the front office over at his alma mater, Cal. You got Andrew Luck, who's a GM over at Stanford. You got Steph Curry, who's helping Davidson out in the front office. And you got Max Crosby, who's helping out his alma mater, Eastern Michigan. There's a trend that's going on. And it's because money's involved that a lot of these guys from the pros are going over here, because it's starting to become the pros. You get what I'm saying? So I think slowly but surely, I don't think we're going to be in the clear. We're in a huge gray area right now with this stuff, because again, it's no precedent, and this stuff takes time, and the NCAA just opened the floodgates when they passed this NIL with not putting enough rules and regulations in place, in my opinion. And so as a result, that's what we're dealing with. I think we have about another 10 to 12 years before we have some, solid ground on a foundation we could build upon to where this is as least problematic as possible. Because Nico's not going to be the last one to hold out in spring. Just telling you, it's just true. Nico's not going to be the last one to hold out. And I'm interested to see what happens going forward. But those are my predictions, man. Y'all follow us on Instagram at Vanguard Sports LLC. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good jazz. This is my first YouTube video I've done fully by myself. I'm uploading by myself. So I hope I do this right. I'm about to exit this and edit. But as always, it's been a pleasure, guys, and I'll see you soon. Bye.